Hi, I'm John Payne. Welcome to Business as Unusual. This is a weekly session where we dive into how the likes of you and I, as marketers, salespeople, and scale-up business owners can stay productive, profitable, and at peace during the pandemic and whatever comes after. This week, we're focusing on the sharp end, sales. Be it B2B or big ticket business to consumer, this episode should really help you out. We're joined by the wonderful Katie Roberts. Hi, Katie.
Hello.
I'm amazed that we managed to find time in your diary because, as my mate Farmer Nige says, you're busier than a one-legged man in an arse-kicking competition. I want to ask you, how come you are so busy? But I guess we'll come to that. In the first instance, why don't you do the alphabet backwards?
ZYXWVUT SRQPONMLKJIHGFEDCBA.
Brilliant. Rounds of applause there. Can you do it forwards, Katie?
I have to sing it. If I can't do it forwards unless I sing it. And no one needs that today.
I think, as you can probably tell, I know Katie fairly well, and I know some of her really cool tricks. She's got loads, and we'll probably end up doing a few of these with Katie because she's absolutely flipping brilliant. So we'll save up the rest of her amazing tricks. That was just a starter. And yes, Angharad, what? She can do the alphabet backwards, struggles to do it forwards. Katie, let's get serious. Give us a bit of background as to your sales experience to now.
So I've been working in sales since I was 18, so a little baby. I started off in a call centre, calling people, trying to get a survey out of them, which was challenging, to say the least, to put it politely. And then I went to university and started selling tickets to events, which isn't as easy as it sounds because no one has any money and the events aren't good. So that was challenging as well. Then I worked in a balloon shop as the store manager, trying to get people through the door because it was a massive balloon shop, and no one was ever in there. So I had to get people in and then upsell and, would you like a hat with your costume, sir?
When you say a massive balloon shop, was it only selling balloons with baskets underneath, or just it was a big store?
Big store, helium balloons.
Gotcha. Can you make balloon animals?
No, but I can make balloon sculptures and arches.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I'll have to book you if Mrs. Payne ever needs to find a better husband. Well, she needs to find a better husband if she ever realises she needs to find a better husband. Okay, so then balloon shop.
Okay, then balloon shop. Then I fell into recruitment, the dreaded recruitment, which taught me a lot. I can say it was scary and horrible as much as the next person, but I did learn a lot from that, doing outbound sales. And one of those outbound calls I did happened to be to John Payne. And now I work at Noisy Little Monkey as the client development manager.
That's because,
isn't it lovely?
Yeah, well, and what was brilliant was recruitment is easily, in my opinion, the hardest sales job there is. By the way, if you think I'm farting currently because you can hear that car bit outside, it's not. It's just a bloke next door that's got one of those cars with a massive spoiler on it on the back and a massive exhaust. Genuinely, Fran, I'm not breaking wind during a podcast /webinar. I wouldn't. I'm too professional. But yeah, recruitment, one of the hardest jobs, right? And particularly in sales anyway, it's not as hard as digging the roads, but it's a hard job for sales because you have to sell to the person you're trying to put in the role, and you have to sell to the client who's got the role, and you have to make sure that this person who magically suddenly now thinks that they're worth way more than they were when they were on the scrap heap now doesn't want this job and wants you to negotiate up. So many sales techniques. I've always thought that it's in fact, we employ 3 people from the recruitment industry in Noisy Little Monkey, and we're only a team of 13. So I've always thought that people who've worked in recruitment really know what hard work is when it comes to working in an office. I remember that call greatly. In fact, it was a lovely day like today, wasn't it? Because I said, why don't you F off and enjoy the sunshine? Never call me again.
No, you didn't say never call me again. You said F off, enjoy the sunshine, and come to Digital Gaggle. And I wrote on your notes on our CRM, what a legend, told me to F off, but in a nice way.
That's nice, because ever since we've worked together, I've told you to F off in a variety of unpleasant ways. No doubt.
Probably, yeah.
So, Katie, what's the trait that occurs naturally in you that makes you particularly suited to sales?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say empathy is quite important, because as much as you really want to make that sale and close all the deals and yada yada, you're not always at the top of somebody else's list of priorities. So it's about understanding what other people need and how other people feel, and then responding to that and being more of a advisor and a consultant than a salesperson necessarily. I think it's evolved quite a lot, the industry. So I think having empathy and resilience, I suppose, are what makes me good at what I do.
Yeah. I think when we were talking earlier, I mentioned that I have a desperate craving to be validated and liked, and
I also have that.
That's all what makes, I think, drives a lot of salespeople. You've got the ones who are motivated by money and the ones who just want people to like them.
We just want friends.
Yeah, exactly. But all in future, as a salesperson, all friendships are transactional. That's what I find. Anyway, no, I don't find that at all. That's a terrible thing to say. Let's just go over what we're going to talk about, which is typical of every business is unusual. We focus on how to do great work when there is a great deal of uncertainty around. I've got this round the wrong way, as well as a lack of money. And then we'll approach the opportunity. And today we're really going to dive into that sales bit of that. And I'm really glad to have Katie on, because as I say to anybody who'll listen, she is absolutely fabulous at sales and teaches me every day something new. I don't think she realizes that, although I've told it to her twice now in the last couple of days preparing for this webinar. I've been doing this for like 30 years or over 30 years. And yeah, every day Katie teaches me something new or how to see stuff from a new perspective. So yeah, it's a real honor and delight to have her on. And right now, what we do now, just before we get into the meat of what we're going to talk about, we talk about the company that the guest is representing, because we wouldn't both be here if we weren't advertising something in some small way. Otherwise, why would we just be talking into the ether like we are? So, Katie, why don't you tell me about the company that I founded?
The Little Monkey was founded by John Payne 11 years ago.
Hello.
He was sick of SEO charlatans ripping people off and thought he could do it better.
Not rip people off better.
Do it better for a more reasonable price. His wife, Nick, luckily helped make the company profitable, and Tash came along and did some more brilliant things. And now we have a team of 13 awesome people. We're an inbound marketing agency, and we specialize in SEO and HubSpot. We're a Diamond HubSpot partner, and these are some of the wonderful clients that we have helped grow with these things.
That we do. Cool, brilliant. And for those of you who don't make it all the way to the end, just going to share this before we get into our conversation. And believe me, we're getting close to starting to share stuff. We have lots of free tools that you can use for marketing during a crisis, invented because we started really in the recession of 2008. So we've got experience of this kind of stuff. This kind of stuff happens once every 10 years. Granted, we are in trademark unprecedented times. But you know, recessions, depressions, terrorist attacks happen with sort of sad regularity. So we've got all of these resources. I'd encourage you to use them. They're at that link there. Because no one's got any money, we are doing free onboarding for HubSpot, new HubSpot clients, which is a deal that's kind of exclusive for us with HubSpot, for 90 days. So if you want a single source of, yes, Maggie Irvin, HubSpot. Oh, I see. I've caught that late in the chat. She did say HubSpot, not HubSpot. But yeah, we're setting it up free for 90 days. So that's that. What I want to do is just launch a poll to know who we're talking to, so that Katie and I can kind of modify our conversation to understand, or sorry, to make it focused on the people that we've got in the room. So if you would like to answer in that poll, thank you. You've just started to do it, everybody. You should be able to see it flashing on your screen somewhere. The sort of business you work for, and all that kind of stuff. I don't think you can see it, Katie.
I can see it, but it says panelists cannot vote, and I feel left out.
Well, sorry about that. But so we've got, so you can see that we have mainly got lots of people. Still, votes are still coming in. This is great. Good voting, guys. Good voting. 80% of us have voted. That's good enough for me. Keep voting though, because I'd love to know more. But 80-20 rule says that we've probably got a reasonable guesstimate now. So most people work in companies of between 1 and 50 people. That's quite a big spread, but we're kind of talking primarily to SMEs. There's a few people who are between jobs right now, and that is good. That is fine. Glad you're here, polishing up your skills. And then there are a few people, 100 plus, 500 plus companies, most people working in marketing or sales. A few, 20% of people working in sales, that's good. A few working in operations and a few working in other. Weird. Last week we had Carrie Rose on, who does SEO via the medium of digital PR. And about 80% of the people who came were in PR. They have not returned for this episode on sales. And at what level are we looking at? Oh, that's weird. Have I done that? That's cool. At what level? Most people are at a director or a manager level, with the remainder falling into exec level and working for an agency. So primarily small businesses. We're primarily talking to managers and directors. Obviously, everybody else will try and keep you covered up. Covered up? Good Lord. No. We'll keep your questions covered off. I'm going to press an end to that polling. Really grateful for you joining in on that. That makes it easier for us to tailor what we're talking about. Lost my thread. Thank you so much. We're primarily SMEs. We're primarily senior level, with some other people in there. So get your questions coming in the chat if you want any answered. I'll keep an eye on them as we're talking. We've also got Claire Dibben from Noisy Little Monkey. She's the marketing manager who's come up with a lot of the stuff that Katie and I are selling at the minute. She's from Noisy Little Monkey. She'll be monitoring the chat. If I miss anything, she's going to WhatsApp me or at me in the chat, and we'll answer your questions as we go. But to give us some context of what we're talking about, so this is a survey run by Topo, which is a software company, I think, out of the US. This was a whole month and a bit ago now, which feels like a lifetime ago. But I was listening to another one of their webinars the other day, and it looks like that actually the things that we thought, so 80% of companies expect a negative pipeline impact. This is technology sales, so it's not people selling caravans, although I suspect they're in the same boat. I don't know why I chose caravans, but, you know, insert your business there. But 80% of companies are expecting a negative impact to their pipeline. Katie, when we went through ours, can you remember what the negative impact was on ours?
Was it like 99%?
It was 99%. We went from £250,000 new business coming in the next 3 months to 1% of that, which is £2,500. But we closed it, right? We did close that.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, come on. So, hey, it'd be interesting to know if anybody has got more than that or less than that. The other thing that came out in this survey that Topo did, again, to only a reasonably small number, I think maybe 350 companies, was, and you can go and watch the webinar where they talk about this at webinars.topohq.com/CV, standing for COVID, not curriculum vitae, because they're American. 47% of companies report buyers are no longer booking meetings. And Katie, you're more at the sharp end than I am. In fact, I'm doing so much delivery at the minute. You're the only sharp end. You are very much the tip of the spear. What's your what does it felt like for us? Do you think that 50% of buyers no longer booking meetings feels about right for you?
No, I'd say I've had more meetings than usual, which is strange, I know, but they wouldn't necessarily be our ideal buyer persona. So the
Right.
types of people booking meetings have changed, but the quantity has increased, if anything.
Thanks.
That
Okay.
might be partly because people just want to talk to people, or it might be Claire's marketing, but we'll go into it more when you ask me more questions.
We will. Thanks, Joseph. I'm going to swap my webcams to the one that shows you all of my chins. How's that? That's better, isn't it? Let me bring Katie down onto this screen now, because otherwise looks really weird. Okay, so and excuse the bare light bulb behind me, but business is hard. No, I just took down the big one because it made me look like I had a halo. Thanks, Joseph, for letting me know. And Gary, interesting to hear that you're growing 16% month on month. In fact, more than interesting, fantastic. If you're happy to share, Gary, and please don't if you would rather not, to let us know what industry you're in. That's quite an interesting thing. So I think a lot of other people are feeling it, but I'm seeing other clients who have got stuff in high demand. Certainly the people that Katie's talking to, there are sectors that are in high demand that are seeing growth, which is absolutely brilliant. So Elliot's not prospecting at this time. That's interesting, Elliot. We'll come to maybe how you might be able to do that. I'm going to have to bring the chat down here as well, because otherwise I'm just doing that the whole time. Right, so let's go to the standard stuff. Right, so no one's got any money, Katie. Apparently, well, apart from the people who are talking to Gary, and that's freaking great.
Gary's got loads.
Yeah, Gary's got loads. Of course, the email marketing platform called Zoom Mail. Yeah, you should go check that out. If Gary's getting 16% growth month on month, he's doing something right, and he's clearly got a great product. Go check it out, guys. Not while you're watching this, though. Try and keep us the focus of your attention, because we're important. How are you dealing with the fact that most of our old clients or our old pipeline, clearly money isn't necessarily an issue. Not many of them have gone bust, I don't think, have they? They've put stuff on pause, and discretionary budgets have been kind of wiped out, right?
Yeah.
So how do you cope? How do you cope with that? How does someone in sales cope with that?
Well, I've had to think of it in two different ways. So I've been thinking about the short term and the long term. So in terms of the short term solution to this, we have adjusted our services slightly. So if you can't sell your product or service at the moment, then we can offer things like online training, or just teaching what you do to other people. I mean, it's important to acknowledge that we're in quite a lucky position where we can still operate because we sell what's on the internet, sort of.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily going to work with every industry, but you can either tailor your service, adjust your prices, or carry on as normal and identify companies that are still making money, like Gary. When I say
Gary getting loads of calls.
Gary's going to hate this webinar. When I say adjust your prices, I mean if you're in a position where you can do that. So you can either there offer discounts, work out what your sort of break-even point is, and then work up from there, or adjust your payment terms to suit the buyer's cash flow. Because a lot of our people have put stuff on hold, but that doesn't mean that when the economy picks back up that they're not going to start buying from us again, hopefully. But yeah, and then the third thing is, as I said, carry on as normal. Obviously with a massive sense of sensitivity, but if you can identify these companies that are still making money, there's no reason why you shouldn't still be of value to them. If you know what sets you apart from other companies that do what you do, you know your values and you know your ethos and what your USP is, then there's no reason that these companies who are thriving in this time shouldn't still be interested. So that's my short-term solutions.
And do you have ideas on how you might be able to identify companies that are still making money?
So I wrote a blog about this. and it's mainly
I really
just
wish we'd rehearsed that, because it would feel like I'd feel a lot more satisfied with the question.
the hair flick worked though, didn't it? I was actually itching my neck, but I'll pretend it was a hair flick. It's not like the easiest thing to do, but if you think about sort of online retailers, DIY people, they're all thriving. You can use LinkedIn, you can talk to your network and find out how people are. You don't need to be that pushy salesperson, because people are genuinely interested in how people are at the moment. So you can just check in on people. There's there's some websites you can use as well that I can put in the chat that I've put in the blog, and it just says kind of who's got investment at the moment. So it's a
Okay.
bit cheeky, but there's things like that. But I would just say be human about it. My one thing, as I've always tried to be as a salesperson, is just be human. People know exactly why you're getting in touch. There's no shame in saying why you're getting in touch. You don't need to be pushy.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me just recap that. So tailoring your service. So one of the ideas that you were talking about is that you could train people to. Am I sharing the chat, by the way, guys? No, you can't see that. Good. One of the things you could do is tell people. So we're in business services. So what we're able to do is tell people how to do. It is what we do, so that we can, instead of charging them a big retainer, we can train them and charge them less money for that. Tailoring your service from the point of view of someone who perhaps is in manufacturing might be a lot harder than that. So then they probably would need to dip down the scale. If I'm all right, kind of going over what you said,
Yeah.
thinking about adjusting their prices. I really like your idea of all their payment terms. So being able to give people longer terms or more imaginative pricing structures.
Yeah, exactly. But like, just be as helpful as you can. We're all in the same position.
Yeah.
So if you need to get legal people involved that will do the wording for you, then that's fine. But I just think just do what you can for people while we're all in this situation. And if that means giving them a discount or adjusting your payment terms, then so be it.
Yeah. I like the carry on as normal thing kind of works, but only if you identify companies that are still making money. So
Yeah.
we'll put in that email about the link to your blog post that you've written about the sectors that you might want to go look at, but also in the follow-up email to everybody that's attended, we'll send we'll link to those websites that you talk about where we can find out who's got investment, because actually I know that there's so there's still, I do interviews with stockbrokers, can you believe it or not, who are looking to invest in various organizations, and they interview me about the sector and they pay me stupid money for half an hour of my wittering. And there's still plenty of those calls going on to people and people like me. So there is still plenty of people investing in different organizations. So we can still do that. Anything else that you think we should cover off before we move on to how people are dealing with uncertainty?
I think Elliot's point in the chat, he said something about not wanting
coffee and a biscuit.
Go on, Nick. About not wanting to prospect at this time because it doesn't feel right. I do really agree with that. But I think this kind of leads me on to my long-term point of if you don't feel comfortable doing prospecting right now, I don't do any outbound really. So it's not your classic prospecting. It's more people will inquire based on the marketing that Claire has done, or based on some stupid video I've put on LinkedIn or something like that. So it's very gentle outreach. So I do really understand where you're coming from, Elliot, when you say that. But thinking more long term, I would say it's a really good, in terms of when there's no money, it's a good time to think about your sales process as a whole, and kind of analyze your process and focus on sales enablement and think about how you can improve that to make selling easier in the future. So that's a more long-term solution if you don't feel comfortable doing outreach at the moment.
Yeah, and Elliot says that he believes that how they act now will be how they're judged in the future. So they're focused on helping their existing clients. I show this particularly for remote working. I show this book nearly every time, Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman, excuse me. Really worth a read if you've got the time right now, where he talks about system 1 thinking and system 2 thinking. Elliot, what you're talking about there is basically make sure that you're maintaining and in fact building trust with your client base, so that the natural decision is to come to you when they come out of all this. Don't worry about it just now. And if you can't do anything just now, I think hopefully we'll be able to give you some ideas of stuff that you might want to do. Cool. So in terms of uncertainty, and what I want to come back to sales enablement and how Claire's doing marketing, those two things that drives you leads. Because I imagine that a lot of people are struggling right now in that area. Well, I know they're struggling, because otherwise, why are they picking up the phone to us? Quite agree, Damien. There's nothing to stop you selling. I think we're just conscious that we need to be doing it with empathy. So let's talk about the uncertainty bit, Katie. Oh, in fact, actually, I'm talking to the empath of empaths. So tell me about how you're dealing with uncertainty and how you think we can.
I'm just trying to be as kind as possible, because you have to remember that it's not just professional uncertainty, it's people's personal lives as well. So we have to just remember to be forgiving of people. You might be trying to get somebody on the phone or close a deal or whatever we salespeople do, and they might not be being as receptive as usual, and that's really understandable, and that's fine. So what I've tried to do is just remove any friction from our sales process and just be a trusted advisor rather than a salesperson. So when I say removing friction from your sales process, I mean just really simple things like, instead of chasing somebody every single day, like when can we meet, when can we talk, obviously we can't meet at the moment, when can we do this Zoom call? We've got an integrated calendar with HubSpot, our CRM, so I can just send them a link and they can book in when they're free. I don't need to go back and forth over email, and that sounds really simple.
The link is they can see or everything in your diary, or how does that work?
They can see when I'm free and book in a time slot. They can't see everything. Phone call with mum. No.
So here's a question I always get asked: how do I make it so that they can't book a meeting with me on Sunday then? Because my business is my calendar's empty on Sunday.
I've just got my availability as Monday to Friday. I think it's 7 till 7. So you can choose your availability. That's only on HubSpot though. I don't know what other calendar integrations there are.
I think Calendly does something similar, and I think that's free for a limited usage, so you don't have to get something that you have to pay for like HubSpot. Calendar, we'll put that in the email.
But that's just and that's just an example of one really simple way to remove friction and remove the kind of pushy nature of when can we meet. Another thing is just giving as much information as possible, and as salespeople we should be doing that anyway, but because of this this abundance of uncertainty, people are feeling more secure with the more knowledge that they have. So just do the classic listen salesperson thing and respond with the stuff that they actually need, rather than trying to upsell or cross-sell other stuff. Just providing as much information as possible and guiding them through the process. That's what I've been trying to do anyway, and being that advisor. I like that analogy, so I always use that.
My old boss, who I keep referring to, and he came on one of these, I don't think he's on this one, taught me the acronym SALES. SALES. S is for smile, A is for ask, L is for listen, E is for educate, S is for sell. So like your whole process, if you're thinking about following that mnemonic, is smile is basically that empathy thing, isn't it? And then the ask is you get them talking about the problem, and people love to do that. Listen, that's what we do as salespeople, right? And then educate, which is where you're talking about being that trusted advisor. So you've asked and listened and asked and listened and asked and listened and asked and listened, and then you begin to educate and educate and educate. And it's only right at the end that you sell. And I think, and that kind of plays to Damien's point, right, that he made in the chat, that as long as you've got a valuable service, then there's nothing wrong with selling.
Well, I completely agree with that. Why would you be selling it in the first place if you don't believe in it?
Yeah, and right now, if you've got a valuable service, that you think could be helpful. You're not just phoning people up and going, buy my thing. Hopefully you're becoming a trusted advisor, helping them understand what their problems are, and giving them as much information as possible, to help them through that process. I think it is, really like your thing about people being aren't as receptive. Are there other ways that you have seen your clients or yourself removing friction from the sales process?
What other ways of removing friction?
Hmm.
Well, I mean, you and Claire did quite a lot of that work for me before I started, because we've got buyer personas, so I understand the challenges that our prospects are facing,
Right.
and therefore our sales process is quite aligned with how they want to buy. So I think that's a really good way to remove friction, and I've done a bit of work on that. But I think a good starting point there is aligning your sales and marketing teams if they're not already aligned, because I know what campaigns Claire is doing and then how to react to that. So for example, somebody will go onto our website and download a guide that Claire has put up with a landing page, and it will be how to implement HubSpot. So I know what challenges they're facing from what they've downloaded, and then I can send them a really helpful video saying, hello, it's Katie from Noise Little Monkey. I know you've downloaded this guide. HubSpot can be a bit difficult on your own, so let me know if you need any help. Thanks, bye. And I'm not being pushy.
Wait, so you're doing that on the phone? You said a video, so you just create a Zoom meeting?
No, so I use Soapbox, which is what would you call it? It's almost like a Vimeo Vidyard.
Yeah, I think it's by Wistia, isn't it? And it's a plug-in for your browser. I think that's what I'd call it, but then I'm a nerd.
So you click the plugin on the extension on your browser, and you can film. It's half of your face and then half of your screen. So I'll normally go onto their website so that they'll see something familiar when they open the email, and it's got the thumbnail of this, but then at least it's their website as well. And then I'll just say, hello, it's me. How can I help? I've noticed you've downloaded this. So it's relevant to what they've asked for help with on our website. It's a face, so it's friendly, and it's not pushy at all. It's just helpful.
Yeah.
So we're really focusing on just doing helpful, relevant outreach, and that's the only outreach I ever do.
Yeah. That, which is, and we're telling people to do it, right? So it's going to stop being different at some point, although your videos are better than pretty much all the other ones I've ever seen coming out like that. But yeah, so, okay. And there's a lot of people agreeing with the fact that we need to share, be as helpful as possible, share useful information and useful insights, because it helps people understand what their problem is and whether your business can provide the right solution for it. So making that sales process a bit less salesy and pushy, and people agreeing with that we shouldn't be generating bad will right now.
No.
Weatherspoons. We should be generating goodwill, Timpsons. Good points, everybody. Good points. And great points, Katie. And maybe we'll have a chance to unpack some of that sales enablement thing later on. But talk to us about if we're coping with that opportunity, that uncertainty. How do we prep ourselves to get the best from the upcoming opportunity?
Well, people like people and brands that are familiar, aren't they? So if we create those bonds now, then they're more likely to be able to buy and want to buy from us in the future. So for example, holding a weekly webinar.
That's a great idea.
Great idea. Someone should start that. Engaging with people that you wouldn't normally on LinkedIn or by email. We have more opportunity to be a bit more flexible with our time at the moment. I've been speaking to so many people that I wouldn't normally speak to, not for any particular reason, just I don't have time to reach out to people who wouldn't necessarily be in our fit matrix of clients.
Ooh, fit matrix. Okay, two things. Question one, LinkedIn is dog shit, right? So why are
Yes.
you using it? I mean, it's full of boringness. I hate it.
Honestly, I'm using it for two reasons. I'm quite funny, so I'm trying to put out
And
nice,
modest. Let's not forget humble and
nice
modest.
content that's just like what's the word? Not informal.
Kooky.
No, informing,
Yeah. Oh, informative.
informative. Thank you. But also
Cheers, Claire.
light-hearted, because I think it's really important to acknowledge the severity of the situation, but also not focus on the doom and gloom and keep people feeling like there's hope. And I'm not saying that me doing a stupid video is going to do that, but I'm saying that they'll recognize my face, and one day, maybe when we are allowed to see each other again, they'll recognize me, or I'll become just a bit more familiar for people. And everybody, even if it is crap, people are on it. So I might as well be doing stuff on it that people are going to see.
Yeah.
I've messaged loads of people on it and I normally get like a 1% reply rate on LinkedIn, and it's been so much more recently. And I've had more connection requests and more profile views. So I don't know what that means necessarily, but I know that it implies that more people are certainly using the platform and are on it more, which is why I've been using it at the moment. But yes, I agree with you that it's not the best. Generally, but there is some stuff you can do on it.
Man, and I asked that as a devil's advocate question because I hate LinkedIn. I think it's a really dull platform. I think it's full of, and
you can't really win with it, can you? Because if you put out just informative stuff, people are like, oh, it's boring. But then if you put out stupid stuff, people are like, it's not Facebook. So you have to find that fine line in the middle that's both.
Yeah, and there's so many boring old white guys on it. Says
you.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's so much of that going on. So actually, but the fact is when you look at the metrics that work for us and our other B2B clients, it's the platform on social that drives the most traffic and drives the most drive to their website, and then therefore drives the most revenue. So much as I malign it, it's a necessary evil, I think, particularly in B2B. And I was just interested in your feedback. So actually you saying, be informative, keep it light, while acknowledging the severity is a useful one. In terms of, you mentioned something about we're currently talking to people who are outside of our fit matrix. What's a fit matrix?
So a fit matrix. No, it doesn't. A fit matrix is sort of how would you describe it? I use it as a way to work out how similar to our buyer persona the person I'm talking to is. So I have a list of requirements. So people who we work with have to be, or ideally are in a particular sector of a company of a particular size, have a certain revenue, are female friendly, as in just not annoyed that we've got mainly females in our team, and there's just certain kind of requirements that we work best with. So it's just how we are set up to work best and make them thrive. So normally we wouldn't work with startups, for example, not because we don't think that their company is great, just because we're not set up to work well with people without a marketing team. But this week, well, the past few weeks, I've been talking to loads of startups who have been like the loveliest people. And one of them made me cry because he was telling me this lovely story that I won't share, but oh God. And I've just had really nice conversations with people. And I know that's not necessarily going to lead to a sale, but if 1 in 10 of those does, then that's a pretty good conversion rate. And it was worth it talking to nice people, learning more about other companies out there and how I sell, and closing potentially more business. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of, I think people forget that actually all of this stuff about being informative and all of that kind of stuff really only works if you're getting the numbers through the door, right? If you didn't do those 10 calls that 9 of them in fact all 10 of them feel like they're probably going nowhere, but that your close rate is 1 in 10 on cold inbound inquiries.
Yeah.
Just got through those no's, right? Because that means that in the next 10, there might be 2 yeses. And actually, out of the first 10, maybe you get 1 yes that you can do. That was always my thing, is just get through the no's. When I was doing telesales, I bet you like when you were doing recruitment, just got to get through the hang-ups and the swearing and all of that, because then out of there, then you get to 1 or 2 that are great and you make some money.
Yeah, and even now, if they're a no, it's not a annoyed no. It's just it's not the right time now, or you're not the right agency for us, or they're not the right type of people for us, because we don't do that kind of outreach where it's intrusive. It's Claire will have created some sort of content or copy that's driven prospects to the website or to our social medias in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's never cold. It's what does HubSpot call it? I can't remember.
I can't remember. They've got a lot of jargon. I think what would be useful is we'll share a fit matrix, if that's okay. We'll share a blank fit matrix. Maybe we'll use that as an example, because then the people on the call can use it going forward. Obviously, we, as you say, we've modified ours, haven't we, since we've done it. But yeah, Joseph, sorry, you're spelt in a really cool European manner, so I want to call you Joseph, but you're probably just Joseph. We will definitely share that. And I thank you for telling my camera overheated, 1, but 2, dude, do I share your sentiment on TEDx? Oh my Lord, have they ruined that brand or what? Sorry, it's just like TEDx is basically a LinkedIn of
John,
event.
you hate TEDx.
I really do, mainly because no one's asked me to speak at one.
Yeah, I think that is why.
So we've got thinking about, in the opportunity, there's like be more helpful. Think about being helpful on different Bristols. I read your message, Azim, just as I said, being more helpful on different platforms. Yeah, maybe TEDx Bristol. I'll speak at that. No, I won't. I've just told Joseph how rubbish it is. Oh no, I'm hoist by my own petard.
No.
But yeah, so think about using LinkedIn, particularly being informative, acknowledge the severity, but keep it light. Think about modifying your fit matrix or even deploying one. You cried on a sales call last week. Do you think that's something we should all employ? I mean, was it the first call with this prospect, or?
Yeah.
You're fired.
What? The reason I said that is because it's an opportunity to speak to more people that you wouldn't normally speak to, and
right.
In a human and personal way, he was just a delightful man with an amazing story, and I cried. And it's just important to remember that just because they're not in your fit matrix, I'm now giving him some free HubSpot help. So
did I mention
being helpful? I'm not. So yeah, so it's about being helpful, creating those bonds now, and kind of doing a bit of future proofing. Did I mention I cried?
Yeah, you did mention you cried. I had a cry this week as well. I think everybody should cry at least once a week, particularly while we're in lockdown. Brilliant. So we've gone through, and this has gone very, very fast. What one thing should we leave everybody with? What's your one piece of advice for continuing through lockdown? Maybe, I don't think we're going to get unlocked next week, but whenever the lock lifts, what's your one piece of advice for anybody who's working in sales?
Just remember that everybody you speak to is a human. I would say you're gonna just don't piss people off. Don't be unreasonable. Just understand who you're speaking to and do what you say you're going to do.
The classic Katie Roberts, do what you say you're going to do piece of advice, because so few sales teams and so few salespeople actually follow up. Pick that apart for us. Give us an example of when that doesn't happen and what happens when it does.
Well, I just think it's really important to have integrity. I always go on and on about being a trusted advisor, not a salesperson, even though there's no shame in being a salesperson, but your job is to help them buy what they need, and that's it. So if you say you're going to send them the contract at 3 p.m. on Friday, then just do it. It's not hard. And if you end up saying you're going to do all these things and then you don't do it, then you just look like, I can't think of a non-swear word, an idiot. So you're not going to keep up that level of trust if you don't act like they are one of your priorities, which they should be, because they're a client. So that is just one of my pet hates, is people with no integrity. So
yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Katie. I have launched another quick poll. If you would like to talk to Katie or me, but probably Katie, because she's the bomb, about anything we've discussed today, and would like to carry on the conversation, then click yes, and we'll ping you an email with probably, I suspect, a link to her diary, so that you can carry on that conversation. I'm going to let that roll while we talk to you about what's coming next. If you've got any questions, because I think we're probably just going to be a bit tight on time. If you've got any questions, I think we've answered most of them as we've gone through. Claire, message me if we didn't see any. But yeah, let us know if you would like to carry on the conversation with Katie. As you hear, she's giving out free advice. We're doing free HubSpot stuff. So if you need anything and you haven't got any money, it's still worth a conversation. If you have got money, then it's definitely worth a conversation. If you want to ask us any questions, you can ask the check out here. Katie, Azim has asked, how did you overcome your toughest objection?
Oh, not at Noisy Little Monkey. I would say that would have been in recruitment, if that's still an interesting answer.
Yeah. Oh man, that's the hardest sales. What was it?
So I was trying to, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a sleaze bag. So we have terms that we had to work to at recruitment company X, and you have to basically convince the client that we work to 30% terms, which we didn't. You could do 8% and we were still profitable, and it used to really annoy me that we had to try and sell the 30%. Somebody read through our contract and was like, we're not doing 30%, we're not doing 30%. So I had to basically convince them of my worth as a recruiter and sell the fact that it was worth 30%, because I'm not an expert in the industry that I was recruiting for, which was defense technology, but I am an expert in recruitment, and this person is so niche, you wouldn't have found them without me. So that one was more about knowing my worth, but it felt like a tough objection because I wasn't convinced that it was worth 30%, but I was convinced of my worth.
Yeah.
So I think knowing your worth is the best way to overcome objections. And you're an expert in your field, and at the end of the day, your prob's just trying to help people.
Yeah.
And yeah.
My tip for handling objections, Azim, is to go on, Bennett. I'm stumbling over every word today. Is to isolate. So you just go back to, you use the sales thing again, and when you hear that, no, I can't do it today. And people always use price as an objection, right? That's the normal one. And then it's never normally price. Otherwise, why have they been talking to you this long? They knew how much it cost. So you smile, ask, listen, educate, and sell again. But you go back to the beginning, smile, and then ask them. And the question is, if we could, is that the only problem that you've got, or are there other ones? Because I want to make sure that I'm getting all of this sorted for you, Mr. or Mrs. Customer. So you isolate the objection, absolutely isolate it, get a yes that that's the only objection, then figure out how you can overcome it. If you can't overcome it, you've lost the deal. But if you can overcome it, they're much more likely to buy because they just told you that was the only problem. And as soon as you overcome that, their last problem, it's really difficult for someone as a human to then out themselves as a liar and go, actually, I also don't like the price. So isolate and then try and handle that objection. We can do.
That's a great answer.
I've been around the block. I never do isolate it. That's what I try and do. And then I just fill the air with noise because I'm an old guy. Guys, next week we have the amazing Crystal Carter coming along, particularly for those of you in marketing, be useful. She is going to be talking about thinking outside the blog. because content matters now more than ever. She's doing amazing stuff with content marketing during COVID. In a couple of weeks, we've got Ayat Shakuri. She is the co-founder of Invesp, which is a really, really, really good conversion rate optimization business. It's not that. That's not how she describes it. That's how I'm going to describe it to you, because that's easy for me to understand. I've got the talk isn't hope is not a strategy. That's just something she said once, and I thought that's the coolest thing ever about conversion rate optimization. We'd really like to see you there. We'd love to see you at the Crystal Carter one, which is next week. You can register for that now at mnky.bz/BAU. And if you think this is useful and you've enjoyed it, please tweet Noisy Little Monkey, tell us you liked it, share it with your friends and your buds, and subscribe to the newsletter over there at Noisy Little Monkey. And we'll let you know about more of them coming up. We'll share the videos with you. And obviously, since you've made it to the end, we'll share all of the resources with you as well. But we'd really like you to help us get the message out there, because this is free. I think we can get another 500 or 1,000 people in this room if I up the budget again. So let's do that. Thanks ever so much for coming along. Thank you for saying thank you, Maggie Irving. It's been nice. And thanks for coming, everybody. We'll send you a link, Alex. We'll put it in the follow-up so that everybody can have it. I'm going to say goodbye now. It's been really nice to have you along. Katie, thanks very much. You've been amazing. Goodbye.
Bye.
Codgouchons.
Codgouchons.